What if I told you that the largest contiguous empire in history, yes, larger than Rome, larger than Napoleon's dominion, was started by a man who was once abandoned by his tribe, hunted by rivals, and left to starve in the frozen steppe? And what if I told you that this empire, the Mongol Empire, didn't just conquer lands, it redefined the map of the known world? Welcome to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries, where today we uncover how the Mongol Empire didn't just rewrite borders, it rewired the very foundation of global history, trade, warfare, and diplomacy. Stick around. What you learn today just might reshape the way you see the modern world. Let's go back, way back, to the vast grasslands of Central Asia in the late 12th century. Born as Temujin around 1162, the boy who would become Genghis Khan had anything but a royal childhood. His father was poisoned by rivals. His family was cast out. He hunted mice and roots to survive. But from these bitter beginnings emerged one of the most strategic minds in history. Temujin didn't just fight to survive. He formed powerful alliances, promoted based on merit rather than lineage, and united the fractious Mongol tribes through both diplomacy and ruthless efficiency. By 1206, Temujin had done the unthinkable. He was proclaimed Genghis Khan, universal ruler of the Mongols. And this was just the beginning. Sometimes the most transformative leaders rise from adversity, not privilege. Genghis Khan's early hardships honed his resilience and shaped his vision. Now picture this. By the time of his death in 1227, Genghis Khan's empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the Caspian Sea in the west. But his descendants would go even further, conquering Persia, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and establishing the legendary Yuan dynasty in China. What made Mongol expansion so effective? Superior mobility. Their cavalry could travel up to 100 miles a day. Psychological warfare. Entire cities surrendered simply from hearing Mongol stories. Adaptability. They used engineers from conquered peoples to breach fortresses and develop siege tactics. The Mongols conquered more land in 25 years than the Romans did in 400. Their empire wasn't just vast, it was shockingly interconnected, laying the groundwork for one of history's most remarkable global networks. But how does conquest translate to connection? Let's talk about the Silk Road. One of the most profound legacies of the Mongol Empire was the revitalization of the Silk Road. Under Mongol rule, a merchant could travel from Venice to Beijing with unprecedented safety and consistency. Why? Because the Mongols established a passport system called Paisa, granting protection to travelers. Relay stations every 20 to 30 miles for food, shelter, and fresh horses. Strict laws against theft, especially from traders. This Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace, wasn't just about law and order, it was about economic empowerment. Silks from China, spices from India, gems from Persia, and even printing and paper-making knowledge all moved freely along this path. So did ideas, inventions, religions, and even, yes, disease. The Black Death, many historians believe, traveled west via Mongol trade routes. But even that grim footnote underscores a deeper point. The Mongols accelerated global interaction centuries before globalization was a word. Trade isn't just about goods, it's about people, ideas, and worldviews. The Mongols didn't just reshape the map, they stitched it together. Mongol influence didn't end at borders or markets, it penetrated deeply into governance, culture, and diplomacy. Did you know? Russia's rise as a centralized state was shaped largely in response to Mongol rule. The Mongols ruled over the Rus for over 2 centuries, and their system of tribute collection influenced future Russian autocracy. The Ming dynasty's military strategies in China were directly inspired by their Mongol predecessors. Diplomatic norms like envoys, protection of ambassadors, and multilingual translation bureaus were institutionalized by the Mongols. Even Europe's age of exploration owes a strange debt to the Mongols. Marco Polo travels to Kublai Khan's court, and his tales inspired others, including Christopher Columbus. Their empire may have fractured by the 14th century, but its ripple effects had only just begun. So how can we take this centuries-old tale and draw lessons for today's world? Let's take a moment to truly absorb this journey. We often remember the Mongols for their sweeping conquests, for the thunder of hooves and the fall of cities. But history is a mosaic, not a monologue. And when we zoom out, the bigger picture becomes clearer. The Mongol Empire was more than a military machine. It was a powerful experiment in connectivity, innovation, and cross-cultural exchange. So, what timeless lessons can we take from this era? What can 13th century Mongolia teach us in the 21st century? Let's explore. The Mongols understood something that modern companies and governments are still learning. Diversity isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. They didn't just tolerate different religions and cultures, they welcomed them. In the Mongol court, you could find Arab doctors bringing advanced medical knowledge, Chinese engineers building siege machines and bridges, Persian administrators designing efficient tax systems, Christian monks and Buddhist scholars in dialogue. Instead of enforcing a singular Mongol identity, they embraced multicultural collaboration. This allowed the empire to function smoothly across vast territories with wildly different languages, customs, and infrastructures. Think of today's tech giants like Google or Apple. Their most successful innovations often come from multicultural teams with global perspectives. Inclusion isn't just ethical, it's effective. When we open doors to different perspectives, we build bridges to solutions we couldn't reach alone. Genghis Khan's genius wasn't just in taking land, it was in building systems to sustain it. And that's where real leadership lives. He established the Yasa, a code of laws that promoted loyalty, discipline, and justice. The Yam system, a network of relay stations for communication and transportation, like a 13th century version of FedEx. A meritocratic leadership structure, promoting based on ability, not bloodline. These systems were so efficient that even after the empire fragmented into smaller khanates, many of them retained Mongol administrative structures for decades, even centuries. We see this in democratic institutions, postal services, and international law. The systems we create today will guide the lives of people long after we're gone. True legacy lies not in monuments or medals, but in the systems that serve generations we'll never meet. The Mongols could have easily remained isolated on the steppe, but curiosity pushed them outward. It compelled them to learn from Chinese scholars, trade with Arab merchants, and send envoys to the courts of Europe. They weren't afraid to ask questions like, how do you make paper money? What is algebra? What gods do you worship and why? This curiosity wasn't passive. It was strategic. And it helped them leapfrog technological, logistical, and cultural hurdles that other empires had stumbled over. Did you know? The Mongols helped spread knowledge of printing and paper currency westward, laying the groundwork for global finance. They adopted and adapted military tactics from the lands they conquered, often improving them. They were early adopters of interfaith dialogue, and in some areas, allowed religious leaders from different traditions to debate openly at court. In our world of AI, space travel, and digital currencies, the fastest-growing individuals and nations are the ones who stay curious. When you stop learning, you stop evolving. Curiosity isn't just a trait, it's a tool. It fuels progress, empathy, and discovery. We often think of globalization as a modern phenomenon, something born from the internet, international flights, or 21st century supply chains. But in truth, the seeds of globalization were sown long ago. The Mongol Empire was one of its earliest architects. By linking Asia, the Middle East and Europe through trade, diplomacy, and infrastructure, the Mongols created a blueprint for international cooperation. For the first time in history, people in vastly different regions were part of the same economic, political, and cultural web. Example: a merchant in Venice could buy silk that passed through Mongol-controlled Persia, produced in China and influenced by dyes from India. That's a global supply chain, 13th century style. Today's smartphones are designed in California, assembled in China, using materials from Africa and sold worldwide. That level of cooperation didn't start overnight, it was centuries in the making. Understanding history shows us that today's world didn't appear out of nowhere. We're all walking paths paved by those who came before. The Mongol Empire eventually declined. Infighting, overextension, and changing climates led to fragmentation. But their impact lived on. Mongol-style cavalry tactics influenced warfare for centuries. Their postal relay system inspired similar structures in the Ottoman Empire and even Renaissance Europe. The connections they forged laid the groundwork for the Renaissance by bringing Eastern knowledge into Western hands. Empires are temporary, but ideas, when they are powerful enough, can outlive borders, thrones, and dynasties. Ideas are immortal. And the Mongols gave the world ideas about unity, administration, mobility, and adaptability that still echo in modern governance, trade, and innovation. We don't need to ride horses across deserts or command armies to be world changers. Sometimes it's enough to ask bold questions, to build better systems, to welcome people different from us. That's what Genghis Khan did. That's what the Mongol Empire modeled. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we're all still learning how to do today. From the steppes of Mongolia to the palaces of China, from the bazaars of Persia to the cathedrals of Europe, the Mongol Empire didn't just redraw boundaries. It redrew humanity's map of possibility. Thanks for joining me on Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. If you enjoyed today's episode, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more timeless tales, and tap that notification bell so you don't miss a single journey into the past. Until next time, stay curious and keep discovering.